Since the most recent trailers for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were released, we've got 100% confirmation for regional variants in the form of Paldean forms. Well, that confirmation got me really excited about what possibilities await us in the Paldea region. So today, I'm giving you all another top 10 forms for these games. As always, I'll be going over the origins of these forms, what kind of battler they are, you know, the works. As always, these regional forms were drawn by Alicia Bell, so be sure to go give her your support. Without wasting any time, let's just hop right into these awesome concepts. Before that though, if you haven't already, head over to my new What If / fanfic channel where I read anime fanfics. If that's up your alley, then consider heading over there. Link will be in the description below. The first Pokemon we have up is one I feel many people may actually forget about, being Swalot. This line was introduced in Gen 3 and is kind of just existed since then. No interesting forms, no cool moves, heck, not even a random stat bump like a lot of Pokemon got in Gen 6 and 7. But hey, that's all about the change here because I've got a pretty cool concept. So, these little Gulpin are basically bottomless pits, as their bodies mostly consist of their stomachs. So I can imagine a scenario like this. Cooking being really prominent in the Paldea region. So much so that chefs would keep Gulpin around to taste test or even dispose of experimental dishes. Maybe even the little leaf on its head is used as a type of seasoning, kind of like a bay leaf. So all of this exposure to the hot kitchens, as well as having one too many ferociously spicy dishes, caused the transformation into this fire poison type variant of Swalot. You know, this guy kind of reminds me of Blarg from Yoshi's Island, and he'd probably be fire type too. So there's a nice connection there with another Nintendo game. In terms of how it would look as a battler, I'm thinking it's definitely more offensive than our previous version of Swalot, leaning way more into the physical side of things. With a base stat total of 467, there's not a lot to work with, but not every Pokemon needs to be competitive, right? I imagine it'd get moves like Fire Fang and Heat Crash, while maybe even getting an altered version of Gunk Shot that deals both fire and poison damage, and having a chance to either poison or burn the opponent. I know it's not the craziest one in the world, but I really feel Swalot falls by the wayside more often than not, and I'd like to see Scarlet and Violet change that. Coming up next, we have some love for the gen where all this variant goodness started, being Gen 7's Wishywashy. Now, I always loved Wishywashy's concept of being a measly little fish that could come together with more of its kind to create an even larger, more terrifying creature. Now, it doesn't appear to be the greatest Pokemon in the world, competitively speaking, but it's still cool no less. But what if we could make it cooler? Well, I introduce you to its Paldean variant. The solo form is based on the Mahi Mahi, which is interesting that we didn't get any Pokemon based on this fish in Alola, but it's here now. This little guy adds on the electric typing and is pretty freaking fast. As a matter of fact, it had to be. See, they really like to eat these little guys in Paldea, so they had to develop lightning-like reflexes to try and avoid consumption. It'll still have its schooling ability, meaning that at full HP, you get this version of it. Still as big and as cool as ever, no doubt. This version is based more on the yellowfin tuna and is ready to put a hurting on anyone that tries to mess with it. I can picture this thing being far speedier than its Alolan counterpart, probably at the sacrifices of both attacks and defenses. But that's okay, as it would probably make it a bit more viable in the long run. Moves aren't anything crazy here. Just adding a nice handful of electric type moves like Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, and throw in Thunder Fang and Discharge for good measure. With more speed and solid electric moves at its disposal, I can really picture this version of Wishywashy being used quite a bit. But who knows? Maybe I just feel that way because I love the design so much. Let me know what you think about its competitive capabilities. So in the 8th spot, we have a Pokemon who, regardless of getting a new form or not, has to be in Scarlet and Violet. I'm talking about Zangoose. I mean, come on. You can't have Seviper without Zangoose, so this just feels inevitable, really. But how about Zangoose be brought into the game in a more interesting manner by giving it a new form? Now, some people may feel that's unfair to Seviper, and I get that. But Zangoose has always felt like it's gotten the short end of the stick in this duo, and it's about time that it got the long end. In terms of lore, here's what I think could have happened. Many years ago, Seviper's population started booming in Paldea, ruining the ecosystem. Zangoose were known to have a bitter feud with the Fang Snake Pokemon, so Pokemon breeders worked really hard to breed the perfect combatant to Seviper. Thus, a normal ground-type Paldean Zangoose was born. This version of Zangoose would have to be based on the Egyptian mongoose, which actually does have some evidence of showing up in Portugal and Spain. I don't think anything needs to change about its stats here. It's speedy, hits hard, and will absolutely be able to dominate any Seviper that stands in its way. Now, it had a pretty solid move pool before, but how can you not add Earthquake to this thing? Honestly, with the speed and physical attack it has, solid variety in its move pool, and now a stab Earthquake, I can picture Zangoose not only being a threat to Seviper, but a whole lot of other Pokemon too. Next up, we have a fan favorite getting some variational love, being Crowbat. It's such a dope Pokemon, and one of my personal fan favorites for years. With all this love, it's gotta be high up on a pedestal. So why don't we bring it down to Earth? Literally. Introducing Paldean Crowbat. The basis of this form comes from the brown long-eared bat, and how this works into its form change comes from the fact that we have Exploud sharing the same environment with it. They have such loud voices, and over time, this was too much for poor Crowbat to handle. Its ears literally swelled shut, engorging in size, bringing it to the ground. With echolocation being a non-option with its swollen ears, regular sight being a no-go as its ears have flopped in front of its eyes, it had to rely on dreading through the earth, feeling the vibrations in the ground to find its way around. Eventually, this caused it to transform from the poison flying type we all know and love to a very sad yet adorable ground type found only in Paldea. Now, this Crowbat would absolutely not have the speed that it's known for, but it would have some nice bulk to it from all the mud caked up on it. I imagine it would also be able to hit pretty hard too. Now, of course, you'll have nice ground moves like Earth Power and Earthquake, but you can't go wrong with Rock-type moves like Rock Slide and Head Smash. You know what? Let's give it Rock Polish too, just so it can recapture some of its speedy glory. Now, I think some people will view this as a downgrade to the OG Crowbat, and I suppose I can understand that opinion. But how can you not like this dude? He's just so cool. Wrapping up our first half of the list, we've got our first Kalos representatives in Helioptile and Heliolisk. In terms of real-world location, these two electric lizards would find their home region right next to Paldea, so it makes sense that you'd find them here too. However, these two would have, you guessed it, a form change. Now, they'd be based off of the Iberian rock lizard, so you can guess where I'm going with this. Helioptile would be a pure rock type. Seems a little too simplistic, so I just can't leave it like that. If we look into the real-world animal itself, we can actually find an interesting tidbit about them. In 2008, a study on them reported the underparts of Iberian rock lizards turn green with maturity, and the upper parts gradually turn green as the lizard ages further. So this takes me to Heliolisk being a rock grass type. These lizards live within mountain forests and shrublands, so perhaps the habitat of Paldea it dwells within could encourage that extra greenery added to it. Naturally, evolution would have to come from a leaf stone, but maybe the mossy rock makes a comeback, and you have the option to evolve it near one of those too. I don't think its stats change too much, if at all. I think physical rock typing gets a little too much love, so let's leave it as a special attacker. We can give it Ancient Power and Meteor Beam for Rock Stab, and Giga Drain and Energy Ball for Grass. I think we can keep the abilities mostly the same. But how about we switch out Dry Skin for Storm Drain? Yeah, I like the sound of that. So starting off our top 5, we've got Mandibuzz. Look, Braviary got a pretty sweet form in Legends Arceus, so let's give this old buzzard a makeover too. This Paldean Mandibuzz would be rock flying type, and would be based off of the bearded vulture. These animals are pretty intimidating in looks, to be honest, and I think that's very well replicated here. Now, I don't have an exact piece of lore or origin for why Mandibuzz would go through this change, but I'd love to see you all get really creative in the comments below and give your best guess as to why Mandibuzz changed in Paldea. As you can see, the bone has been dropped out of its hair, letting it flow down across its face, giving it a real edgy look. It's got a gritty rock-like texture on its body, and a beautiful gem right on its forehead. It's a pretty majestic design if I do say so myself. Now, I think shaking up its abilities is definitely the right thing to do as far as other changes go. Rough Skin sounds like a reasonable standard ability alongside Big Peck staying on board. But how about a new hidden ability? You know what? I think it'll be an original one too. I'm calling this ability Flint and Steel. So basically with this ability, if Mandibuzz is hit with the physical steel move, then the attacker will be inflicted with a bad burn, taking 1/8 each turn, instead of the standard 1/16 it would normally get. I'm not too sure if this is a little too broken, but I think it sounds really fun. Steel types, beware, because you're not taking this Mandibuzz down that easily. Next up, we've got some Gen 4 love coming at you with the Scuntec line. Now, skunks are more of a North and South American creature and wouldn't be native to a region like Paldea by any stretch. But hey, they look cute, right? So who's to say some other people visiting other regions that have Stunky and Scuntec natively didn't snatch them up and bring them to Paldea as pets? Only problem is that they didn't realize how bad they could smell. So did they learn to deal with it or send them back to their native regions? Nope. Instead, they had their stink glands removed so they could be the ideal pet. How lovely. But hey, even if that's not the kindest thing to do to these creatures, Stunky and Scuntec didn't mind, considering they can even be revolted by their own scent at times. This removal of stink and the gratitude they felt towards their new owners evoked form changes over the years, resulting in it being a normal fairy type. They'd be based on the eastern spotted skunk, and how could you not love something this cute? Once again, I don't really think much needs to change stat-wise, but obviously that move pool needs quite the updating. Let's give it extreme speed and body slam as new normal type moves, and the one and only play rough for the fairy typing. You know what? Let's make another physical fairy type move for it since only play rough is boring. Let's call it Love Bite. Essentially, the fairy type answer to the other elemental fangs, with this one having a chance to infatuate the opposing Pokemon. I think many, if not all of you, can get behind that premise, with or without the cool new form. Receiving the bronze medal today is our thumbnail Pokemon, Whalelord. Since you already kind of get what this one is about, I'll just hop into lore and everything else. Basically, the earth is dirty. Trash, debris, all that bad stuff in the water. And we're expecting it to not end up in and on a Pokemon at some point, right? So yeah, these Whalelord just open up their big mouths and just take in everything. And unfortunately, got some junk in there too. And you know what they say, you are what you eat. So that's where we get the steel typing from. The flying type comes from the large amounts of gas brewing up inside of them, helping them actually fly like the float whales that they are. Also, the cute Pikachu parachute helps them get airborne. I see these Whalelord being a bit slower, which definitely hurts it, but it gains a lot in its defenses and physical attack. It's already got Steel Roller, Iron Head, and Heavy Slam in its regular form, so those will naturally continue here, adding some nice stab damage this time around. But I think we can do better than just bounce, right? How about acrobatics, fly, and dual wing beat? I mean, hey, these fins are more like wings now since it's up in the sky, so I think it's fitting. In the penultimate spot, we have a Gen 1 Pokemon. Hey, you all knew there had to at least be one, and I'm giving that spot to Beedrill. Beedrill just really hasn't been cool since its Mega Evolution was introduced, and now that that's gone for the foreseeable future, I think it's in need of something new, like a regional variant. This form will be based off of the Asian Giant Hornet, or maybe better known as the Murder Hornet to many people. Yeah, these things are pretty scary and really live up to their nickname's sake. They've become invasive in many different areas of the world, and Spain was not an exception. So I imagine this Pokemon being more murder than hornet. So we're going with the poison dark typing. Now this Pokemon will be frail, being the absolute embodiment of a glass cannon. But it's not going down without a fight. See, this Beedrill will have a devastating ability called Anaphylaxis. When it hits you with the physical poison move, it basically activates a Perish song-like countdown. If you don't switch your Pokemon out, it's a goner. Beedrill will still faint too, but it will be a real power move that I can imagine would not only turn the tides for some matches, but may even be something I could see being bannable in the future. Now for the gold medal. We have some more Johto love with the adorable Polytoad. It always looks so happy and cheerful, so you might be thinking, oh no, Mystic, what are you going to do to it? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's going to be based on the Iberian frog, which doesn't seem too special at first. But then, you read about it. They're considered vulnerable as they're losing their habitat to other animals, climate change, water pollution, and even ultraviolet radiation. So with all that in mind, you know I had to make this Paldean Polytoad water ghost type. It's not just based on the Iberian frog. No, it's also based on the Ogama, a Japanese yokai that come about when a Japanese toad turns 1,000 years old, hunting with its rainbow-colored breath and spears that it used to attack humans with. On that note, this version of Polytoad would not evolve with the King's Rock, but the King's Spear. They're a tad more aggressive than what you'd expect, so just try not to get on its bad side. I think it should definitely still keep Drizzle and Damp, but perhaps Paldean Polytoad could also get Anger Point, as they can get pretty aggressive when provoked. Water type coverage is already there, so really we're looking at moves like Shadow Claw, Play Rough, and Tri Attack working their way into its move pool. You know, I really loved all the forms in today's video, but that special soft spot for Johto that I have pretty much forced me to put Paldean Polytoad at number 1. But I think it could have also earned it even without my own personal bias. Well, there you have it, folks. Another top 10 regional variants from me. I think that may be the last variant video I do for a while, but who knows where the future will take us. But what did you all think of these forms? Which was your favorite? And what forms would you like to see in Scarlet and Violet? Be sure to let me know all of that down in the comment section below. Welcome back to the outro, folks, your favorite part of the video. Thank you for enjoying another Mystic Umbreon video. We made it through the end of the 8th generation, and now we begin the long trek into late 2022 where Pokemon Scarlet and Violet await us. It's a whole new world we'll live in, but we still gotta catch them all. However, there's still a ton of videos to do and experiences to have until then. If you're interested in more Mystic content, check out my TikTok and the Mystic Umbreon Shorts YouTube channel. If we get the 10k followers on TikTok, I'll be doing a viewer's choice video. If you like Genshin Impact, check out my Genshin channel Teibachinary. So if you all enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. See you next time.